Ladies and gentlemen, hey, hi, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. In MW2, we've got 51 weapons in the game right now. Pre-season 1. I've gone through, I've max leveled them all. Now I've got all these weapons on our brand new tier list for MW2 to go through and rank and break down the entire Modern Warfare 2 meta. And obviously we're gonna have this list also available for Warzone 2 as well. We'll be able to consistently update this and break down the absolute meta, the best top tier weapons, what's super competitive, what to avoid as well, every single time there is a brand new major weapon tuning update. So getting into this, we obviously have a lot to talk about. So I've got all the weapons here. It's gonna be kind of weird to rank these because they're not all directly in order. There's some random ones placed randomly throughout, but first up here we do have most of the battle rifles. Starting first, we got the SO14, which I would say is more of a competitive battle rifle and just general weapon in the game. A lot of the battle rifles are really strong because they are semi-auto. You can turn them to full auto, but they're not as good there, so I wouldn't necessarily do that. But to me, the SO14, nice and competitive, 2 to 3 shot kill in a lot of scenarios, not too bad. The TAC-V, I think right now is absolute meta. This thing is a beast. It's actually full auto by default, which is super nice. It absolutely destroys everyone. Its TTK is insane. We've talked about it on the channel previously. TAC-V 110% falls into the absolute meta. The FTAC Recon, I would say, is average. It's not garbage tier like a few weapons will probably fall into, but it's definitely nowhere near as good as the SO14 or the TAC-V by any means. Then we also have the Lockman 762, which I would say is competitive as well. Keep in mind, these are not in a direct order within the categories themselves. They're just in the competitive tier, but I mean, it also is like a 2-shot kill. I think it can 1-shot to the head up close. It's nice and competitive. I think it's very solid. Again, though, the TAC-V is definitely the best out of that category. Now, for SMGs, it's definitely probably the most competitive category in my opinion. The Vel 46, the MP7 right away is absolutely competitive. And you're going to notice as we go throughout this list, because of how fast the TTK is in this game, a lot of things are going to fall into the competitive category. It's going to be the most filled category we have by the end of the video. So yeah, MP7 absolutely falling in there. Great for close range, also pretty decent for mid range as well. The MX9 I think is borderline competitive and average. It's definitely not my favorite SMG. It's easy to use and low recoil, but its magazine capacity sucks and it just doesn't feel like it's necessarily as strong as some of the other choices. Next up, I've got the Lockman sub, which I would say is probably top tier. It might be absolute meta within the SMG category itself, but in the grand scheme of things, I think it's just a top tier choice in my opinion, as is the Vosnev 9K. It feels a lot like the 74U, just it's an SMG. I think it's very strong, very competitive. This is what a lot of the pros have been using recently. Definitely top tier as well. Now, the Hurricane is probably the lowest average weapon we have in the game. I don't think it's garbage tier because you can get kills with it and it is still able to actually have a chance in a gunfight, but it's nowhere near as good as any of the other SMGs and one of my least favorite weapons so far, honestly. The Mini Bok, I feel like, is again borderline average competitive with the MX9. I think for now we're gonna leave it in average because I don't think it's anything too crazy. It's got the magazine size for sure, but its damage and whatnot doesn't feel as strong. The PDSW528, aka the P90, I would say is competitive, borderline top tier as well. It's one that I've really enjoyed using, and again, really good for close range, also some medium range as well. Then we got the Fennec, which I would say is also top tier. Its TTK throughout is phenomenal. Its damage per mag is not as good as some of these other SMGs, but its pure TTK output is very good, especially up close. Then we get to the shotguns, and these are interesting because there's some good ones and there's some not so good ones in my opinion. The Lockwood 300 I would say is competitive, and honestly I don't know if any shotgun is going to go higher than competitive just because they are so limited in this game and you have to be up close for them to work, obviously, and maneuvering around the map and getting caught, you know, by a rifle, an LMG, whatever the case may be, over range, you're done. There's no fighting chance with this TTK. So Lockwood's gonna fall in competitive, as is the Expedite, and I think the Bryson 800 is as well. From my experience, you know, getting gold, getting platinum on these SMGs, the Bryson 890 was my least favorite. It is just, it has great movement speed, especially compared to these other ones, but its fire rate, not really a fan of it. Its inconsistencies with 1-shots or 2-shots, not a fan. I feel like that one's more average. Then we get into the LMGs, and by the way, as we are going through all this, if you guys are new to the channel, every single day I got you covered with news, updates, class setups, tips, all things going on in the world of Call of Duty. This is your one-stop shop. So if you're a part of the 54% of viewers who have not already subscribed, or if you're new to the channel, feel free to hit that subscribe button, turn on those post notifications. Would love to get as close as possible to 900,000 subs before Warzone 2 drops, so you know, feel free to join up. Also, if you guys enjoy the video, let me know by dropping a like on it. It does really help grow the channel, and you know, lets me know that you guys want to see more content like this. But getting into the LMGs here, again, this is a very, very competitive category in my opinion. The Sakin MG38, I would say, is a top tier choice right now for sure. Low recoil, great TTK over range. It does exactly what it needs to do. The HCR56, the AUG LMG, I also think is top tier, feeling very, very strong. The Icarus, I would say, is probably more competitive. It doesn't feel as much like an LMG as it does just a super heavy rifle. The HCR, the Sakin, they feel like true LMGs. The Icarus is sort of like in between there, and I don't feel like it's as consistent and as reliable. The RAL, absolute meta for sure. This thing is a beast and probably my favorite gun in the game as of right now. The RPK, top tier in my opinion, borderline absolute meta, I would say. It's definitely one of the better choices, especially because you can build this more to be like a rifle rather than an LMG. It's nice and versatile for that reason. Then we also have the RAP-H, which I feel like is more average just because its damage per mag, its fire rate, not really all that great. If you put on a larger mag, it's even slower. It's just not really all that consistent or reliable. Now for marksman rifles, the EBR, I think honestly right now is top tier, borderline absolute meta. The 2-shot kill at basically all ranges is super, super good. I'm a big fan of this, and it's been pretty fun to use on the camo grind so far. The SPR, as we know, absolute meta in my opinion. This thing is wildly, wildly good. It is one-shotting across the map. It's like a pocket shotgun as well, because you can quick scope with it up close. It is very spicy. MK2, I would say, is more average than anything. It is a one-shot to the head. It feels like it's a body shot. If it's a chest shot even, it's going to be a 2-shot kill, which is not terrible because the fire rate's pretty fast, but compared to the other, you know, marksman rifles that we have here, not my favorite. The LMS, I would say, is competitive. One-shot headshot, but it's also got that slower rate of fire and kind of some awkward kick to it, but still pretty solid in the grand scheme of things. SAB 50, I also think is absolute meta. This and the SPR basically feel like they're the same gun, like back and forth. If I didn't have the nameplate over them and you just were showing the gun and what it was doing, you might say they are the same. The picture from The Office, they're the same thing, right? So both of those are super, super good. Then we got the TAC-M, which I would say is competitive as well. Very slow rate of fire, can one-shot headshot, I believe, at any range though, so that thing is very spicy for that reason. But that rate of fire, that mobility is going to hurt it some. Then we got the snipers, and honestly, this I think is the best category in terms of they are all very good. Other categories have a lot of really good weapons, then some bad weapons. Not the snipers in this game. They are all very good, and honestly, I think they're all top tier. Like, I think the worst sniper in this case is probably the Signal 50 because I feel like it gets the most hit markers, but also it has the chance to be spammed. Unlike these other bolt action ones, this one still can one shot to the head over all ranges, and it is still very strong as well. The semi-auto feature of that really allows it to be more competitive despite its slightly lower damage, so all the snipers end up being top tier. We also have some niche options here, like of course the riot shield. It is what it is. It's never going to be anything too crazy. Moving into the pistols here, the P890, top tier in my opinion. It's a 2 to 3 shot pistol, very reliable, very good. The Deagle, it's competitive. It can one shot to the head, but it's nothing too special. Actually, I'd say the Deagle's more average than anything because you're still going to have to be super accurate with this thing, and if you miss shots, it's going to punish you. X12 is more competitive for a pistol. It's nice and reliable. It's spammable, super easy to use. Basilisk, aka the Magnum, also going in average. That and the Deagle are 1-to-1 in a lot of ways. Magnum feels a little bit stronger, but also its reload is worse and whatnot, so those are both there. Then the X13 Auto, I'd say, is competitive as well because fully auto pistol, it's a pocket SMG, super easy to use and a great reliable secondary. Now, all the launchers are going to go into niche. Obviously, there's no real meta point of using a launcher at any point. And then same deal with the knife as well. They're all okay for what they're supposed to do, but you're not going to use those in a realistic way in any meta scenario. And then lastly, we got the rifles, which, you know, spoiler alert, is going to be the home to the one lone garbage tier weapon. But first up, we got the STB556, the AUG version, the AUG rifle rather, which is absolute meta. The thing is super reliable, very easy to use, great TCK, one of the better options in the game. The one lone garbage tier weapon, the M16. If you do not hit a headshot with it, it is terrible. Double kills, long shots, the camo grind for this thing has been miserable. It's by far the worst gun in the game. Cast-Off 74U, absolute meta. It's just insane up close. It's almost unbeatable in those close range scenarios. If the sights are up with this thing, you're just gonna have to start respawning. Like that's as simple as it gets. Cast-Off 545, just simply competitive in my opinion. Lower recoil, decently easy to use, but its TTK isn't too impressive. The M4, top tier, borderline absolute meta, nice and reliable, great TTK as well. Plenty of options for how you want to build it. The Lockman 556, I think, is borderline top tier and absolute meta as well. It is so easy to use. Reminds me a ton of the Grout 556. They're very similar in a lot of ways. Low recoil, great TTK over range because it's so easy to land shots, so nice and reliable. They're going to be a top tier choice for Warzone in my opinion. Cast-Off 762, absolute meta in my opinion. The thing has the best TTK over range out of all the rifles. It's a little bit heavier, a little bit slower, but you're getting what you pay for with this essentially, right? Slow and heavy, but absolutely just insane for TTK and damage. Then lastly, the TAC 56, one of those again that easily could be absolute meta. I think top tier is the more appropriate place for it to land, but it's borderline there as well. And that being said, if we go ahead and zoom in here, that's how our meta stands at the moment. All 51 guns in MW2 ranked. Curiously enough, top tier is actually where we have the majority of the guns as of right now. But absolute meta, these are the guns that I'd recommend if you're trying to do really, really well. I'd probably stay away from most of these ones on average, unless of course you're doing camo challenges. But for the most part, like I said, with this TTK being so fast, any of these weapons here from absolute meta down to competitive are perfectly usable and all will do well depending on your skill level in game. With that being said, that's going to wrap things up for this one. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you did, let me know by dropping a like on it. And if you are new to the channel, you want to join us on the road to 900K, feel free to hit that subscribe button so you can guarantee you're always up to date with all things going on in the world of Call of Duty. But once again, thank you so much for tuning in. And until next time, take it easy. Have an awesome rest of your day. I'll catch you guys later. Peace out.